one of the most important things to know and consider in order to actually follow through on your goals is that you will experience setbacks, obstacles, and roadblocks. This is a guarantee, especially if you're working on goals that are going to take about a year, because life happens. And so what happens is if you aren't prepared and you don't understand that this is going to happen, then a roadblock or a setback can actually stop you in your tracks and keep you from moving forward. So the reason why this is so important is because if you recognize this ahead of time, then you can make decisions of how to handle setbacks and roadblocks before they actually happen. And so this is the time to decide how to deal with it, not waiting until it happens and then making the decision. You need to be prepared. And so there's two types of people that end up allowing roadblocks to stop them from moving forward. The first group are quitters. These are people who, when they have a setback, they get discouraged, they feel like they're not getting anywhere, something pops up and keeps them from moving forward in that moment, and they basically just feel like quitting. They let it derail them from their track. And then there's another group of people called the hope-ers. So hope-ers are people who like to leave it to chance. They just want to hope that everything works out. They don't want to take the responsibility. They think that just having the intention is all that it takes. But they don't see that they need to actually take action, that they need to be committed, that they need to be vigilant with their focus and their mind frame, because just setting the intention one time and expecting it all to fall into place doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to work out for them. They like to just think, well, I'm going to see how it goes. And then it's pretty predictable that seeing how it goes isn't going to go anywhere. So why do quitters quit? Well, they quit because they have false expectations. They think everything's going to just unfold perfectly. And then so when it doesn't, that is a red flag to them and they bail out. And so why do hopers end up not taking the action that they need? Well, it's because they don't feel responsible for their lives. And in some cases, it's because they feel like everybody else has more power over their life than they do. And that's absolutely not the case. And other time, hopers really just believe in the laws of the universe and that everything's going to work out. And now it's not a bad thing to be optimistic, but you want to be a realistic optimist. You want to claim ownership and responsibility. You want to participate in creating the things in their life that you want. So there are 4 absolute musts when it comes to preparing yourself for possible obstacles. And the first one is to set realistic expectations. So by all means, affirm yourself, be positive about it, but do not allow yourself to expect it to be perfect, because it's not going to unfold perfectly. That is par for the course. That's how these things work. Also, recognize that it is going to require time. Things don't happen overnight in most cases. It also is going to require effort and action on your part. So don't be frustrated or disappointed if it is a little bit more challenging than you expected. Now, by all means, we want you to aim high, but we also want you to recognize that if things don't work out exactly according to plan, that is not the end of the world, because there's always another way to get there. And sometimes these roadblocks are there for a bigger reason. And so the second must is to plan in advance. You need to be prepared for the roadblocks and the obstacles that you can think of ahead of time that might actually happen. So what we want you to do is we want you to imagine that it's a year from now and you're looking back over what happened and you're recognizing that you failed to reach your goal. So ask yourself the question, why did you fail? And see how creative your brain can get as to what possible obstacles might have gotten in your way. Was it something personal? Was it something within you? Was it a mindset? Was it something in your environment? Was it people in your life? Whatever the case may be, asking yourself this question can actually help you come up with some obstacles in advance. In which case, if you know that there are these 5 things that you could anticipate might derail you from your track, then you can plan around them now rather than waiting for them to happen in the moment. And so the next must is to be flexible and to recognize the limits of planning, because studies have shown that any plan longer than 60 days is going to change. because you just simply cannot predict what is going to happen that far in advance. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't plan. Of course you do. You want to chart the best possible course that you can think of, but then you have to be flexible with that and recognize that it's going to change. Because if you get stuck on this is how I'm going to do it, and this is exactly the way it's going to happen in this order, and this is the path that I'm taking, then if something goes wrong on that path, you feel like you have no other options, which isn't the case. And you might be so focused on obsessing that it has to be this way that other opportunities are coming from different directions and you're not noticing them and you're not taking advantage of them because you're too focused on it having to be just this one way. So tell yourself that it's okay if plans change, because it is. Ultimately, you're just guessing at this point and doing your best possible guess, but it is okay if it doesn't work out that way. And another reason to be flexible is because sometimes you might have, even down to the day, the specific things that you tell yourself you're supposed to work on. But you might wake up one morning and feel incredibly inspired about a particular thing that wasn't on your list for the day. And it's one of those times where if you go with the inspiration, things are going to fall into place and you're going to talk to the right person and you're going to find the right information that inspires you further and you get into flow. And you're in one of those modes where you could work for 12 hours on something and not even notice, not eat or drink or do anything because you're in flow. So what it really comes down to is flow is more important than following your plan, because when you're in flow and when you're inspired is when the best things happen. So that's why you have to allow yourself the flexibility when what you've planned in advance isn't the right thing for you to do at that moment. It's a way of balancing the two. And so the fourth thing is being open to lessons, because sometimes these setbacks or roadblocks are there to teach you something that if you didn't have the setback, maybe you wouldn't know that there was a flaw in your plan, or maybe you wouldn't have found a better way to do something. And there's a saying that when humans make plans, God laughs. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's because some other power has more of an influence over what we do with our lives than we do. It doesn't really mean that. What it means is that sometimes there's a better way. We think that we can plan and make everything fit neatly into a box, but that's not how life is. And if you are willing to let go, sometimes when things aren't working out the way that you expected, you might find that some of those curses are actually blessings that help you not only get to your goals in a better way or maybe a faster way, but maybe they even open your mind to bigger goals that you didn't even know that you had.